Welcome to the Escarpment. This is my model railway build channel and I'm your host Jason. So first up, Happy New Year 2022, and I guess we'll see what sort of crap 2022 brings us, I guess. But at the end of the day, I can always fall back to modelling trains. Oh, hang on, I've been doing that for the last 2 years. So today's video, all about track enhancements. I've changed the format up a little bit, so I hope you enjoyed that. Also, can I just say, there's going to be a special announcement later on in the video, so hang around for that. Ignore him. Anyway, moving on. He's not the variant that you're looking for. So in saying that, what we're going to do, we're going to go start over there and replace that curved set of points. And all we're going to be doing is basically, I'm going to be lifting out a set of curved points and replacing with a larger radius set. Because I've got the space, why not make my trains look as realistic as possible going through points and curves. Now obviously I'm going to be pulling track out, not just laying track, so I do have some different tools that sort of help me with that job. First up, I have my rail cutters, and then usually I'll come in with a fine file and basically, file off any burrs, anything that's sort of created by cutting it with these. My pointy nose pliers, small ones, these are just normally used to hold rails to help get joiners on or to bring rails together. I have these very small flathead screwdriver. With that said, I also have a Phillips head screwdriver. That's really just to get underneath and detach the wires that may be pulled up from lifting the track. Also, I have a 9-volt battery. That's just to help me center my point motors. So unlike the tortoise ones where you can move it by hand, the cobalt point motors that I use needs to use the 9-volt battery. Now, lifting the track from the sound deadening material, I usually use this thin blade. I sort of get it under the track and then slowly move it up to pry it away. Obviously I've got a marker pen. I have 2 drills. One's a 10mm drill that I use for my point motor holes. I won't need this in this area, but I do have my 4mm drill here, and that's for my wiring holes. Now with that said, why don't we make a start? Now there's going to be a few things changed down along this line, and you know, I've sort of given some reasonings in past videos, but basically I wanted somewhere able to bring the coal train over to the main yard track over there in Port Kembla on the north side. And basically what I wanted to do is do a crossover, pretty much the same configuration down there, but just up here. That way I can basically cross it over into the main track or the main yard line and then reverse it into the yards. Now, one of the differences from the last time I spoke about this, that crossover down there where the trains from the yard come down and cross over to the up line, I sort of talked about moving that further down. Now I'm going to actually bring that up a lot closer, just due to the fact that it sort of leaves these two lines open a little bit more down there. But anyway, look, I think I'm just going to soldier on, get this stuff done, and then I'll come back and sort of explain it a little bit more where it's visible, it's there, and it's probably going to be easier for me to articulate and for you to sort of pick it up from the video point of view. Okay then, so sort of in the middle of tweaking this stretch here. Now it's a little bit more work than anticipated, just due to the fact that where I'm putting points is basically it's creating some short sections of track. So I've actually gone back and ripped out whole longer sections of track so I don't have to cut and waste a good length of track here. So I'm sort of just reconfiguring and getting the most and being as efficient as I can with that, because I really don't want to end up with lots of small pieces of track wiring just to fill in the gaps. But anyway, look, it's all going well, and I'll continue to move forward. So let's start down this end, and I'll show you some clips as I sort of talk through some of these changes. So here I've actually put in a crossover, and what this is sort of doing for me is basically as the coal trains come out of the unloading loop and back on the up line, it gives the option for that coal train to switch over, go through the downline main and over to the main lead. Now from there, once it gets onto the yard lead fully, it can then reverse back into the Port Kembla North yard on the other side of the layout. Now, what that does for me operationally, it sort of takes out some of the complexity. Previous to this, I didn't have a way to back in the trains, and they would have to go in engine first, meaning at some point I would need to have another loco come in, move those cars onto another track so the original pulling loco could get back out. Now having this enhancement sort of alleviates that problem. So as mentioned previously, I've also replaced the previous set of points there with a larger radius, and that just allows my trains as they come from the unloading to get back onto the main. It just allows the trains to look a little bit more prototypical coming through a set of points and not having sharp angles, etc. So that one's all there ready to go. Now previously you would have heard me mention I had that crossover here, and what I was going to do is take that out, move it down here and then use a single slip. Well, since then I've sort of taken some time just to sit back and have a bit of a think about that. With the single slip, you know, it's a bit more complex with that track work, and I was thinking to myself, is it an overkill? And I sort of come to the conclusion that it was. Now, single slips, double slips, and those sort of complex track configurations are normally left to, you know, major hubs, major like Central Station, that type of stuff, where you've got a lot of lines coming in and out and you need a lot of options. But in saying that, when you sort of look at the coal configurations, they keep it quite simple. And usually, as you can see here, for those trains, freight trains, coal trains, whatever, coming from the yard, what you'll normally find when they merge onto the main line is there'll be a couple of simple crossovers. So here you'll see it'll move down here on the down line, and then again it'll cross over on the up line when you need to bring that train in to go back up to level 3. And that's all I've sort of applied there, that same basic principle. And as you can see here in that clip, it's the train running through that configuration. Now either way, you might say, okay, it's fouling the main line a bit more, but either way, I mean, I would have had to have that train cross over the main down line anyway, but I just wanted to sort of alleviate any complex track work, especially with a single slip, because it's almost like you've got to have that single slip in between two normal points. I've got 4-point motors, you know, a bunch of frog juices, and I just thought, no, you know what, too complex, leave it alone. Let's stick with the simplistic stuff. And you normally find this prototypical out on the lines anyway when you're dealing with coal trains or freight trains. Now, as part of putting in these two crossovers here with standard points, I actually use one of these from down here. You would have heard me mention again on the last video, there was a set of points here just after this lot here. There was another one here, so coming on the down line you could cross over to the yard lead. So I've pulled those out, and what that's sort of done for me, the reason why I've sort of taken it off, is it sort of allows this major siding here to be kept free. And I guess that was one of the main ideas here, and that's why I've sort of moved a lot of the stuff down to that end, where basically it's these two major sidings serving other parts of Port Kembla can be kept free from any major freight or coal trains coming in, as it was previously in the configuration. Now you probably noticed there I've got a piece of tape with some writing, and all I've got there is just add siding. So one of the thoughts I had was, if there's any extra sidings that I want to put in, whether or not it's serving in an industry or it's just going to be used for a storage track, I thought now is the time. So what I want to do is actually put in another siding here, either serving this industry down here, and I haven't sort of worked out what is what. But look, if you've got any ideas and you've worked at the Port Kembla Steelworks, please shout out, put something in the comments, let me know what you think. But basically I'm thinking I'll put another siding along there, whether it be serving something or just storage. But anyway, I still need to order that extra set of points there, and obviously I've got some track there I can use to build that siding. Now again, as part of all this track work that was done, there was a lot ripped out and replaced. So obviously underneath there was a lot of rewiring, taking the points out, putting the points back in, etc, etc. Now I did come across, it wasn't without error. I did have a couple of issues as I was going through and testing all these track, and one of those was, you know, the obvious, having a short circuit. So basically what I found was these set of points here were basically reversed the wrong way. So instead of having the red wire at the front, black at the back, I had the black at the front. So I just had to come in, switch them around, so the red wire was at the front. And obviously there was a bunch of insulating joiners that I had missed along the way to also help with separating my districts, because basically I've got 3 districts down here. I've got the south, and from this point on I've got the north, and then over here I've got the reverse loop for the coal area. But anyway, so there's a couple little hiccups, but got through those. And one of the big lifesavers that I had, and I'm glad right at the start I designed it and had it up front, was basically not only the visual display, but I had audio signals as well. I put piezo's onto my circuit breakers and reverse looping circuit boards, and you can sort of see I used the PSX range, and I put these piezos on all my circuit breakers and reverse loops. And basically what happens is, you know, when I get a short, I can look down here, it'll turn red, for instance. So if there was a short down on the south side on level 1, that will change to a red and I would hear a signal. And that was basically what happened. So it sort of helped me fault find. So sometimes building in some of those redundancies can help a quicker fix, and then, like I said, it sort of pointed me in the right area, and I saw it straight away of what I'd done wrong. One other thing here, so last video talked about putting in another siding down below, so I can sort of put a passenger car or a small freight to the side and run another one past it just to help with operations. Well, you can see there I've sort of cut out the sound deadening material where I want to make the cut in that board, and that just basically will give me access to the set of points below. Now I've got the 2 points on order, hopefully they'll turn up in the next week or 2, and I've got the track ready to go. So once they come in, I'll start to look at putting in that extra siding down there where you can see that track. Now up here on level 3 is another area I'm going to probably have to enhance, due to the fact, if you look closely here, if I have something coming from the branch line, some sort of traffic coming from the branch line, switching over these set of points here to the main, and then maybe it's probably something that could go off to the coal, I'm sort of creating an S in the track work there. And usually with 101 track lane, you shouldn't be laying that type of S configuration. Sometimes you can get your cars in trouble, cause derailments, that type of stuff. Now look, I use large radius and I don't really think it's an issue, but I do like to stick with certain principles. And the reason for it, when I first designed this, originally on level 3 here, over there, I was only going to have like a coach yard and some sort of terminus station in that sort of field over there. But since thinking about it a little bit more and sort of looking at the operations side, I'm probably going to have some sort of industries over there. And look, one of those industries could be some sort of small coal depot. So in actual fact, I could have some coal traffic come through here, switch over to these mains, and then switch into the coal branch line here to go get loaded, which means then I've got trains traveling through these S form right here. And also on top of that, what I've decided to do, or what I have done at the moment, is I've gone out and purchased my first ever steam locomotive. I've ordered one of those AMR 38 class locos. I think it's the 3803, the black with the red pinstripes. Now what I wanted to do for this layout was to have one of those such locos, a picnic train, but you know, I also wanted the picnic train to maybe go through and do a tour of the coal loader area. Now, in doing that, if it's coming from the branch line, you know, these are longer trains, they've got longer passenger cars. Now, right there, that's good. I've got enough space between these 2 points without creating a massive S right here. But when I get to this area here, and if that tour does go onto the coal branch line, I've got an S right here. So that is why I'm going to come back and have a look. I probably will end up putting at least a 30 centimeter straight track here and just move those center points down just to alleviate any future issues. So those were the track enhancements to date, as I've just taken you through. And as mentioned earlier, I still have a couple more enhancements to do, both up on level 3 and down on the south side of level 1. There may be still another tweak. Other than that, I'm still waiting on some track to turn up, some points, etc. Really, I won't be able to do too many more sidings without getting more flex track in as well. So just on that announcement of the steam loco, you know, who would have thought? Once that gets delivered, I'm going to install a DCC sound decoder in it. And I need to just look up the sound file that I'll need to use for it. So look, if anyone has an idea of which best file I should use from the ESU website, please let me know, because I'm going to be using a lock sound decoder. So at the end of the day, let's hope that this year is a little better than the last one or two. But in the meantime, stay safe. Bye for now.